I welcome y'all to the PPL live show. Shit's liver than a California sideshow. On the board, all the teams talking mad shit, especially when the squad gets their ass kicked. PPL's like a bad bitch with an ass lift. Everybody wants to get some action, making trades while we're drafting. One of a kind, no other that can match it. PPL ever coming to you live. 12 years strong and we're never gonna die. Real talk, so you know we never lie. Betting down 50, trying to win the whole pie. Let's get this shit cracking. Welcome to the best sports show on the planet. Damn it. Tune in to the PPL live show. Kick your feet up like the blunt, get your eyes low. PPL gets you ready for the week. Co-host Matt Page shows hate when he speaks. Gino when the Jake gonna speak what he see. PPL motherfucker, I'm a OG. I'm ready for the shit to get started. Time to find out who's good and who's garbage. It's time to find out who the next champ is. Trying to win the whole pot, time to go cash in. World War III, time to load up your team. Hit the battlefield, leaving blood on the scene. You can speak what you think, I don't care what you mean. Focused on me, steady building my team. Now I'm sicker than COVID-19. EJ hops on the throne, but I'm coming for a seat. So's everyone else in the league. I just don't see a challenger stronger than me. With that said, dog, I'm ready for war now. Like I'm strapped in the hood, kicking doors down. PPL is my game now. Used to be fun, but the shit in the game now. Bringing the pain now. Opposition's laid down. Done with the flow, dog. Nothing left to say now.
And that was our man Charlie White giving us the 2020 intro to PPL Live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Gino the Gent here. PPL Live Week 12 is here. It's time. The playoffs are approaching, and still 6 teams are in the hunt, with one team having clinched. We're ready to go. Ulysses S. Haight is on the line. And before we jump into Week 12 and get into turkey time, we're going to start off with our Week 11 score, starting with the Argonauts defeating the Mean Machine, clinching the playoff spot, the first playoff spot in the PPL. Only for the boss gets it done in a prestige matchup of the week behind Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, 126-87. Patty's Twins leaves no doubt, continues their surge, winners of 5 straight, 160-104 over the Skulls. Squad underestimated gets by the Baby Gas team, 104-91. And Appease the Gods continues their late season surge, putting down the United Players the Destroyers, 128-67. All right, man, so let's get into our Leave No Doubt players of the week, man. Who's your Leave No Doubt player of the week, Ulysses?
Well, I have to go with it because it was dirty. It was dirty by the team, scoping it out. It played out perfectly.
Okay.
Taysom Hill is my Leave No Doubt player of the week. The Argos only won their matchup by 12 points, and getting 21 points from a quarterback playing a tight end. I mean, the NFL's recognized it, Fantasy's recognized it.
Right.
So, I mean, hey, they pulled one over on Mean Machine. Unfortunately, they were on the losing end of it, but hey, it left no doubt, and it's why the Argos clinched the only playoff spot within the PPL so far. So for that, it's Taysom Hill for me.
All right, yeah, Taysom Hill. He had 233 yards passing, 51 yards rushing, with 2 touchdowns on the ground to help the Argonauts clinch the playoff spot and put them into position to defend their title in three-peat. I'm going to actually stay. I didn't expect that. I'm actually stay with the same team. Deshaun Watson was my Leave No Doubt player of the week, man. I mean, it started early and it never stopped. Deshaun was sharp against a Patriots defense that could, sometimes out-scheme you. He had 344 yards passing with 2 touchdowns, scoring 35 points, and he also added a touchdown on the ground, running the guy over to get the Argonauts into the playoffs. Now, our attention turns to Week 12 as our first matchup gets underway. We look at the United Players, the Destroyers, taking on Patty's Twins. All right, man, so we got the United Players, the Destroyers, Patty's Twins. The UP obviously didn't set their lineup last week. Super sloppy, lost to Appease the Gods. Patty's Twins surging, 5 wins straight. The Twins are the genesis of the PPL. They were the first champions. They're a 2-time champion. Been there, done that, look great. Patty's Twins, UP. Can the Twins pretty much clinch a playoff spot this weekend?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I think that the UP actually gets this.
Oh, wow.
Any actions of their own. They haven't touched their lineup. I think that Appease the Gods lucked out last week. Tom Brady and Godwin were available
right.
all the way up into game time, with Josh Allen and Cole Beasley being on buys. The destroyers were just asleep at the wheel here.
Yeah.
And I think that they just have good matchups in front of their guys. I mean, I think Josh Allen and company could go. I think that Tennessee Colts matchup is intriguing.
Right.
Two very tough defenses. I don't think a lot of scoring is going to happen. Benefits the Twins, but I think Jonathan Taylor hasn't looked like the premier back.
Yeah.
I think that just the matchups are a little bit more challenging, I think, for the Twins this week.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Steelers are, they're both beneficiaries if they beat Baltimore. The Chiefs are looking amazing. Tampa Bay, I think, is going to lose that game.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be a close matchup. When you look at how these teams played early on, it was tight. And no knock on the Twins. I just think that they've been riding high.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just catches up, and it just leads to further intrigue as we get to the finals and the playoffs. So I think the UP gets one again, not really by anything that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I think Lady Luck runs out for the Twins this week, and I think that the UP gets it 118 to the Twins 113.
I see what you did there, Ulysses, but I'm going to have to go the other way, man. And I'm going to have to go the other way for a couple of reasons. Aaron Rodgers has been on fire. They get Chicago at home. He loves to show out against Chicago. You know that better than anybody. Antonio Gibson has been running hard. His best career day was actually against the Dallas Cowboys. Typically, guys just want to show out against them. It's a Thanksgiving Day game. I like that play there. I'm with you on Jonathan Taylor. I'm out on that Colts backfield. I emphasized that last week when I was talking about the Gaff situation, playing Nyheim Hines. I don't like any of the Colts running backs just because it's so unpredictable as far as how they're going to use their backfield. I love Robert Woods' matchup. I love Keenan Allen had 16 catches last weweek. He was close to getting the Leave No Doubt Player of the Week. Just didn't put up enough points because he only had 16 on 145. But he also had a TD. So Keenan and the new guy, Herbert, are really getting on the same page, and it's really paying dividends for the Twins. I mean, Keenan is jumping back up into the top 5 in the position. On the United player side, while I do think that Chargers Bills game is going to be high scoring, I don't know about some of the other plays. I mean, this Irvin play for Green Bay, now that the irony of him catching a touchdown from Aaron Rodgers would be ridiculous. But I don't like the likelihood of that. This guy's projected for like 1 point. Gronk, you know what? They're starting to really see. I think Gronk had a little opening for a while, but I think defenses are starting to key on him, and that slowed Tom down. We've seen Tom struggle, who is on his bench. He probably needs to just stay there. I like Patty's Twins. The Steelers defense, maybe Lamar can probably put up some points. I'm going to go with Patty's Twins here to get this one. I think the high scoring continues. This team is showing a lot of high scoring potential. I go 127 to the United players 108. And moving on to our next matchup, we go into our historical turkey tussle of the PPL. It was like the Cowboys and the Lions in the NFL. These teams play each other every year on Thanksgiving. Alpha Conference rivalry. We got the Argonauts taking on Squad Underestimated. All right, man. So the Argo, they clinched the playoff spot. First team this season to have 2 different players win the Leave No Doubt Player of the Week in the same week. You talked about the Taysom Hill thing. They won't be able to rely on that. Tight end has been a graveyard for them since the Kittle injury, which is why that was so significant, and you pointed it out last week. That's going to be something they're going to have to adjust to, but Watson has a great matchup. He's got 2 good matchups on Thanksgiving, and then obviously Dalvin Cook and Devontae Adams Sunday. But then Squad Underestimated is coming with Kyler Murray. What you think, man? Argo, Squad Underestimated.
Yeah, I mean, Squad, again, this is just an unfortunate situation. I don't think Adam Thielen's going to be available. I know he's in COVID protocols.
Right.
He's looking like Kenny Galladay. Because, I mean, outside of that, I actually love the matchups they have. I mean, we saw what Deshaun did to New England.
Yeah.
I think Kyler has shown, number 1 in fantasy at the position right now.
Right.
Just blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Chris Carson should have a field day if he's healthy enough to suit up against Philly. Minnesota's run defense is garbage. It's it's just unfortunate again with Adam Thielen looking out, Kenny Galladay's looking out, Mark Andrews has had a resurgence.
Yeah.
I think that they actually have decent matchups. It's just again the injuries are just going to come down and just I mean the Argos are hitting their stride at the right time, whether by trade or free agency acquisitions. I mean, they just always got their ear to the ground.
Right.
And so, they're just in position. I don't think that the squad's going to give them too much trouble this week, just because I think the Dolphins are a lock. The Rams should have a pretty decent time with San Francisco.
Right.
And the other side, again, squad just doesn't have enough talent in there to match it. I've got the Argo winning relatively comfortable. I'm going to say 133 to the squad's 104.
So you got them clinching the Alpha Conference this week. We won't get an Alpha Conference championship game next week.
Agreed.
Okay. You know what? I want to see an Alpha Conference championship game. Squad Underestimated could probably do PPL Live a big favor by beating the Argonauts that week because it sets up a great clash. But I'm going to have to go with you, man. I think the Argonauts are going to get this one. Like I said, I love the matchups on Thanksgiving for Deshaun Watson. I think Ezekiel Elliott showed that if they commit to the running game and they can stay in the game, he's going to be effective. And I think they can do that against a Washington team that's not going to run away with things with Alex Smith. Obviously, Dalvin Cook there was not to like. Devontae Adams was not to like. Julio Jones, though, man, it's starting to show, man. That hamstring injury, he's not recovering as quickly. It's a chronic issue for him. It's been an issue for him throughout his career. And it unfortunately is making him almost unplayable for the Argo because he's coming in and out of the matchup. You're not even sure if you're going to get Julio. I don't even know if they should leave him in the lineup. Now, on Squad Underestimated side, I love Kyler Murray weekly as the number one quarterback. I think that he's the safest number one quarterback of them all. Now, he is questionable this week. It looks like his shoulder limited him in practice, but I think he'll be fine. But you're right, man. I think going down the line, I think Adam Thielen playing will be huge because that'll help them if against Dalvin Cook. But other than that, I don't know. I like Mark Andrews, but Pittsburgh's a tough D. I'm going with the Argonauts in this one, 131 to Squad Underestimated 117. And moving on to our next matchup, we go into our interconference matchup of the week, a pivotal matchup for a team we thought would win the Alpha Conference. Their Alpha Conference title hopes have already been dashed. We got the Skulls taking on the hanging on for their life Mean Machine, man. All right, man. So this matchup is a tricky one because the Skulls aren't your typical 4-17. The Mean Machine, they look like one of the best teams, but obviously they've lost 3 straight now, 3 Alpha Conference games in a row. What do you think of this matchup, Skulls, Mean Machine?
I think Mean Machine's misery continues.
Oh, wow.
I really do. I look at the matchups in this, and I like the Skulls. I mean, it's kind of remarkable just looking at their lineup, the caliber of a team that they are,
right,
and looking at their record. I mean, this team just has been unlucky.
Yeah.
To be 4-7, and basically everybody in your starting lineup is in the top 10,
right,
at their position. That's just it's pretty astonishing. I know we've had a couple teams have similar faith, and they could just play spoiler, going down the stretch here, and I think that they do.
Okay.
I'm not buying what's going on. New Orleans is a totally different team, in my opinion, from a fantasy perspective.
Right.
Without Drew Brees, I'm not. It's just not looking as dynamic.
Right.
Taysom Hill is no Drew Brees.
Right.
And he's never going to put up those kind of numbers. Got those TDs on the ground.
Yeah.
I think he hurts Alvin Kamara's value. I think he hurts Michael Thomas's value. And I honestly think that they might lose this Denver game.
Right.
I just have a sense that it's going to catch up to him, right?
Okay.
And so I think that they're going to struggle. I think Justin Herbert, that's a long road trip, and it's in the cold weather. I don't think we've seen him perform in that environment yet. True. So I just I think that the matchups and the caliber of talent the Skulls have, again, just you look at their record. If you looked at this matchup with no records, I think it would be pretty easy to pick the Skulls over the Mean Machine. Okay. I'm gonna say that the Skulls get this, and I'm honestly gonna say that they have a leave no doubt performance.
Wow.
I think that they get this 138
okay.
to 121.
Okay. I mean, you got the Mean Machine going down very close again in another high scoring matchup, man. I feel you with the Skulls, but I'm going to have to lean the other way, and it's because I'm seeing Carson Wentz at quarterback. Now, could Carson Wentz have a good game? Probably, maybe. I mean, it's possible. It's Monday night. You know how that goes. Some guy that played horrible all year turns into a superstar on Monday night. But what I want to rely on that is the question, and that's really my only question with the Skulls lineup. And quarterback can be a game decider. It can be a backbreaker. Ask the Mean Machine. He had to contend with 2 quarterbacks last week. So looking at this matchup, Justin Herbert, he does have to go to Buffalo, but the over-under for that one's like at 50-something, Ulysses. I think as long as weather doesn't play a part, Justin's going to be just fine against that defense. It hasn't looked strong all year. I think Miles Sanders is the best play for the Eagles of any player on that team. I'm with you on the Kamara Michael Thomas situation. The offense turned into a different kind of offense. It was more of an opportunistic pass offense instead of a steady, methodical pass offense, and that's going to hurt Michael Thomas, who's a high volume guy. I love the Brandon Cooks play. I thought against the Argonauts, they probably should have had Brandon Cooks in, being he was a receiver for Deshaun last week. And it just continues to go down the line. I love James Robinson also. I'm going to go with the Mean Machine, keeping their season alive in this matchup. 138 to the Skulls, 126. And moving on to our next matchup, we go into an Alpha Conference showdown as Only for the Boss takes on the Baby Gas team. All right, man, so Only for the Boss. They're looking pretty legit as far as clinching a playoff spot. I think that it's safe to say that I think that of all the other teams left, they're the team that I would put the most money on to make the playoffs based on the field. They got probably a game that they should win against the BGT. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I think this is a pretty easy one to pick, to be honest.
Okay.
That Mahomes, Kelsey, Tyreek Hill combo has been consistent all season.
I mean, it's a triumvirate, man.
Yeah, if these guys are playing, I mean, they are the top scorers on this team.
Yeah.
They are consistent. Nobody looks like they could really stop the Chiefs in any kind of fantasy sense. I think that the one thing concern, and it's not for this matchup, Only for the Boss cleans out the BGT this week.
Okay.
I'm not really concerned. BGT has a lot of talent. It's just it has not happened.
Right.
And then you just look at their coach is playing their defense, so I don't know.
Little things like that has always been a thing with BGT.
Yeah, I mean, and again, he'll get those sometimes. I just don't think it happens against this Only for the Boss team. I honestly think they might be a victim of their own success.
Okay.
I mean, as we get, because I think that this team does make the playoffs.
Okay.
Of the 5 remaining teams vying for those 3 spots, I think they do get it. I think that this week is where they clinch, really.
Okay.
They win this week. I think that they're pretty much a shoe-in. But I think that going into the playoffs, this may pose a problem having this many Chiefs, especially if they're in such a commanding position for a 1 or 2 seed, which is looking like they are.
Yeah.
With them and the Steelers, I'm just saying I don't know how that's going to affect the playing time of these guys, and I'm going to be curious what kind of free agency moves Only for the Boss does to bolster them as they look at a playoff push. But I've got Only for the Boss winning comfortably here. I'm going to say that they win this 131 to the BGT's 98.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with you on this one, man. I got Only for the Boss also. But man, I love the analysis there. I have to agree with you. It is. I didn't think about that perspective. I just thought that Only for the Boss, they're looking like they're going to be the juggernaut Aristaya, breaking the Argonauts, I believe, 2 or 3 year streak as the top scoring team in regular season play. So that's the kind of team that you see, and you expect that to project into the playoffs. And I would think that any team that has to deal with 2 weeks of the Chiefs is going to be hell, because even if they have a slow week 1 week, they're coming back hard the next week. So I've always thought that was an advantage for them. But if those guys have clinched, or if they're in a situation where there's nothing else to play for and they want to get guys rested, that could pose an issue for Only for the Boss. But like you said, let's stay in the here and now. They got to win week 12, and I think they do. I got Only for the Boss winning this matchup 127 to the BGT's 112. And moving on to our next matchup, we go into our prestige matchup of the week. Critical times have come in the Omega Conference. Things will have to be answered in this matchup. It's prime time. This can decide the fate of Omega as Appease the Gods climbed back from the dead to take on the GAFF attack, who has fallen backwards, man. What is going on with the GAFF? This team looked like they were on their way to the top. Appease the Gods looked like they were on their way to another top 3 pick. Instead, we're seeing these teams in a potential war for the Omega Conference title, man. What do you think of this matchup? Prestige matchup of the week. ATG, the 2 most decorated Omega champions in history fighting it out. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I've gone back and forth on this matchup. I think that both teams are in decent shape. I think that Russell Wilson should have a big bounce back game against Philadelphia. I think for me, it's just the injuries that are kind of outstanding for the GAFF. I mean, how healthy is Gurley, Hopkins, and AJ Brown right now?
Right.
I mean, these guys are banged up. I think that I wouldn't necessarily trust that Saints D against Denver.
Okay.
But I think the Packers coach is a lock against Chicago. That's been money in the bank.
Yeah.
Looking over at Appease the Gods, I mean, this is the pretty indicative of Lamar's status on this team. I mean,
I was going to say that immediately, man. I was actually going to mention that in the preview. Jared Goff is in the lineup against San Francisco, and Lamar Jackson, the league MVP. He could have been the PPL MVP last year. Is on the bench, man, for this critical matchup. This is the biggest matchup for Appease the Gods all season, and his top guy's not in there. I had to just point that out.
Well, I mean, he's not his top guy. I mean, that's why. I mean, he's on the bench.
Okay.
Nobody cares. Work harder is what management is going to say to Lamar. And Jared Goff, I mean, has put up a real good, made Tom Brady look silly last week.
Yeah.
I think that he's going to play a San Francisco defense that is very beatable, and this is Appease the Gods trying to make a push for a playoff spot.
Okay.
And they can't trust Lamar. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think showed why they picked him where they did.
Right.
Salvin Ahmed has been a big boost, along with I think Eric Ebron.
Okay.
But I mean, something's just kind of getting at me to say that if this current lineup is where things go, Gurley, Hopkins, Brown all end up suiting.
Yeah.
I think that the GAFF gets revenge for the early season loss.
Okay.
If we remember, GAFF was 2-0, the only undefeated team when these guys clashed in week, or I think he was 3-0 at that point when these guys clashed in week 4, and Appease the Gods got at him.
Okay.
And that was the highest scoring game for Appease the Gods all season.
Right.
And I just think with this lineup, they're not going to be able to match it. I think that this is a close one. I think this is a deserving matchup. But I think that the GAFF really gets themselves in the position not only to make the playoffs, but to win Omega this week, course correct, and get things back on track. I've got them winning this matchup 127 to Appease the Gods 124. Really good effort by Appease the Gods down the stretch, but I think that this is
this week.
The hopes end.
I'm going the other way, man. I'm gonna make it a little interesting here. I think that Appease the Gods has an opening here, and I think it's probably because they go with maybe a Jared Goff over. They have not benched Lamar all year. They've been faithful to this guy. I think they may have went with Bridgewater 1 week, but I don't know if that was the bye week. I have to go back and check that. I think the Jared Goff play is a sneaky, pretty good play because San Francisco can score on that Rams defense for whatever reason. Jared's going to be forced to throw a little bit more than people might expect in this matchup. I like the play. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, to me, he's reduced Le'Veon. I mean, I see Le'Veon come in. He might get a carry here and there, but it's clear that that's Edwards-Helaire's backfield. I think that projection for him is low. Tampa Bay looked pretty average to me, especially against the pass. I think that they're going to be in position to get a lot of short touchdowns, and Edwards-Helaire could have a big day. I love Ahmed against the Jets, and I love Mike Evans going against Kansas City because if they're playing from behind, Tom's going to have to throw, and if they get into the red zone, you see Mike Evans is going to probably score. I expect Chicago to be playing from behind. They got to go to Robinson. And Eric Ebron is actually a very, very good tight end this year. I mean, I know his ranking's not very high, but just to have him in a passing offense with Big Ben, who kind of does like to go to the tight end in the red zone, he could have a good game, especially against a Baltimore team probably that isn't checking for him. The flex is where it's interesting for ATG. We'll see what happens with Parker. Now, on the GAFF side, man, the scoring's capped at this point, man. When you're not getting 20 from the coach and you're not getting 18 from the defense, this is what it looks like here. Wayne Gallman's a decent play. I think that he can surprise this week, but you're depending on that. That's part of the problem. Todd Gurley, I mean, he looks like a shell of himself. D-Hop is a good play, but they're in New England. Stephon Gilmore is back. This is a good matchup. It's going to be scrappy. I don't think D-Hop's going to have as easy a time. I got to appease the gods, continuing the misery of the Gaff, putting them in true heart-pumping Kool-Aid territory. Appease the gods 110, the Gaff 108. All right, PPLers, thanks for another week of PPL Live. May the odds be ever in your favor. Gino the Gin and Ulysses S. 8 signing off. Have a happy Thanksgiving.